Six Nations 2022, the Sunday game is Ireland and Italy. Italy without a win thus far in the campaign, for a few campaigns now to be fair, they're none from two. Ireland need to bounce back after dropping their last game against France, and if their record in Dublin thus far is anything to go by when they absolutely obliterated the Welsh, the Italians could be in for a pretty long day at the office, but we will see. We'll go through the squads, some of the stats, the recent results, predictions, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this one is going to play out. I should say, if you guys want to get any British and Irish Lions gear, they're still getting rid of the stuff from the Lions tour last year, jerseys and jackets and hoodies and stuff. They're all on discount, so link in the description for that British and Irish Lions rugby store. Get some gear, man, while it's cheap. Rugby gear end of season is usually the best time to get it. That's how I have accumulated a jersey or two. Looking at the Irish lineup, Andy Farrell has rotated more players than he usually rotates. Like, I've looked at the depth chart from last year, and he's not much for rotating for just rotation's sake. He has kept things relatively stable in the past. This is among the most changes I've seen in an Andy Farrell lineup since he's been in charge. The front row is Porter, Sheehan and Furlong, so it's still the same props. And maybe I would like to see some of the other props get some more game time, because you know Furlong and Porter are world class. You don't need to play them in this game from the start to prove that. But yeah, he's kept things stable in that regard. But Sheehan is getting, I think, his first start for Ireland. He's been off the bench a few times, so it's good for him to get that number 2 jersey on his back for a change. Beirne and Baird are the locks, so it's a little bit of rotation there with Baird starting this week. O'Mahony, Van der Flier and Doris is a changed back row. I mean, Van der Flier is still stable, but O'Mahony's up from the bench and he's captain for this one, and Doris switches from 6 to 8. Gibson-Park and Carbery is the 19 combo. Remember, Sexton's been injured over the last kind of couple of weeks, but he is back on the bench this week, but kind of, I guess, eased back into it. So Carbery gets another crack at the helm with 10. Henshaw's up from the bench at 12, so that's good news. He's another guy who's kind of coming back from a wee injury. Ringrose is at 13. James Lowe's back into the side after impressing for Leinster in recent weeks, so he's in on the left wing. Mack Hansen switches to the right wing. And I think the one that everybody's pretty chuffed about is young Michael Lowry getting a crack at 15. When we looked at the Irish depth chart for 2021, it was like Hugo Kieran has played basically every minute of every game for Ireland at 15 last year. Like, apart from the last game where he got subbed, every other game he started at 15 and played the 80. And I said maybe that was an area where they need to build some depth, and everyone said, fear not, Mark. Michael Lowry's going to be the guy, and here he is getting a crack. So congratulations to him. He's not the biggest guy, but he's got a real good skill set. So I'm absolutely chuffed to see him getting his debut for Ireland. Bench-wise, Herring comes in alongside Kilcoyne. Finlay, Bealham still there on the bench. Kieran Treadwell is also there on the bench, so he'll be absolutely chuffed to get in some time in the green jersey. Jack Conan drops to the bench. Craig Casey's back in. Johnny Sexton, like I mentioned, is back in. And James Hume, like I mentioned, back in. So a few guys are getting a wee rest. Conway, Kelleher, Aki. Ian Henderson's got COVID, which is unfortunate, so he's outside the camp at the moment. Keenan, all these guys are getting a wee bit of rotation. So yeah, it's not a usual Andy Farrell thing to rotate, but I am pleased he has given some other guys a chance to impress. For Italy, not so much in the way of changes. They've got Fischetti, Lucchesi and Ciccarelli as the front row. That's the same front row that played against England, and they were holding their own for the most part, from what I remember. Canone and Ruzza are the second row. Ruzza, if you guys have followed my videos for any time, you'll know he's kind of one of my favourite Italian players, and he's looked solid in the Six Nations thus far, even though they've only had the 2 losses. Pettinelli comes up from the bench at number 6, which means Bram Stein is down to the bench. Lamaro is captain at 7, and Halafihi is continuing on at number 8. Negri is not on the bench for this one. Remember, he suffered an injury in the last round, so he's not. Well, he's obviously still recovering. Varney and Garbisi is that young 9-10 combo. I'll get to some stats about Varney in a second. Murray comes in at 12 this week. Remember, he's been riding the pine thus far and usually come on at fullback, but he's starting at 12. I think it's the first time I've seen him play at 12, but I believe he does play 12, so it'll be a good test against Robbie bloody Henshaw. But anyway, Brex is still there at 13. Bruno, I think, is going to get his second game for Italy on the right wing. Coming into the 23, Pierre Bruno on the right wing. He's replacing Mori, who had a bit of a stinker in the last game, and Monte Ioane is on the left wing. If you watch the URC, you will know that guy is pretty dangerous. And then Padovani is still there at fullback. Fiver is still there on the bench. Neymar's come in for Traore. Pasquale is still there. Sisi's come in. Zuliani's come in. Staines on the bench, like I mentioned. So it's just Fusco and Zanon as the two backs on the bench. Remember, Zanon was at 12 last week, so him and Marine have kind of swapped places. Stats-wise, if you're looking for individuals, the Italian captain, Michele Lamaro, he's made 41 tackles in the Six Nations thus far. Admittedly, his team's been under the pump, so he gets more opportunities to tackle. So he's the top tackler in the competition thus far. Tain Basham from Wales is second with 32 tackles. Lamaro is 41, so he's far and away the top guy. He's absolutely getting through some work. And the substitute hooker, Fiver, is the top guy for dominant tackles. So like I said, the Italian guys have had some defending practice, and Kieran Crowley has basically looked at this campaign as a chance to sort the defence more than anything else. So we'll see how they go in Dublin. It's going to be a tough ask. Varney, like I mentioned, I know he's the favoured guy at the moment, but man, he's been a bit of a worry. He's still a young man, and he's not been getting a lot of game time at his club, so maybe it's a bit of rust, but like 8 handling errors. The top guy by any top handling error stat for any player thus far. I mean, Gibson-Park's got 5 and he's second, but Ireland's had a lot more ball than any other team. Gibson-Park's made a lot more passes, so I find it strange that Varney's had so many handling errors compared to like Gibson-Park. It should be the other way around. For the Irish, Mack Hansen is the second guy overall for run meters. He's had some pretty sweet performances in his short Irish career thus far. He's only behind Freddie Stewart. Remember, a fullback tends to get more free, uncontested meters than a winger. And Andrew Porter's one of the main guys for turnovers, one, believe it or not. He's even ahead of Tadhg Beirne. Caelan Doris would like to reduce the amount of turnovers conceded. I mean, he hasn't missed any tackles, so that's pretty pleasing. I think he's like 26 out of 26 or something. But yeah, his number of times where he's conceded possession is a wee bit too high. So chance for him to get rid of that stat this week, I would say. Looking at team stats though, man, Ireland are relentless. They average 130 carries a game. To put that into context, that's a good 20 more than the next best teams. And that's including teams who've played the Italians and tend to, get a bit of boosted stats. So, yeah, Ireland love possession. That increases their chance to carry. They have almost 200 passes a game. So, as I said, relentless, just ball carrier after ball carrier. England, I think, is second for passes with about the same possession as Ireland. Remember, they've played Italy, and they're like 160 passes a game. So that just gives you an indication about the tempo that the Irish side wants to play with. Interestingly, more than half the points for this Irish side have come from the third quarter of both their games. So getting started in the second half, whatever Andy Farrell, whatever message he seems to gives to his players, seems to work a treat based on a 2-game sample anyway. So yeah, pretty deadly. For the Italians, obviously they've conceded 5 tries in both games, so that's not ideal. They'll want to reduce that, but away in Dublin is, as I said, a tough ask. Interestingly though, against France, they did well in the 2 first quarters. So start of the first half, start of the second half, and it was the second half of each half, so the fourth quarter and the second quarter, if that makes sense, where they seemed to tire. So the latter half of each half is when they tired and shipped a few points against the French, whereas against the English it was kind of a steady flow of points throughout the game. So I will be curious to see how they can manage that relentless Irish attack. Last 5, it's all Ireland. Average score 41 points to 12. So Ireland easily around about 30 points better than Italy over the last 5. Last score last year, 48 points to 10. So kind of goes with that logic there or thereabouts. Yeah, Ireland a big time favourites. What else can you say? Rugby Forecast algorithm says Ireland by a whopping 46. And the bookies are saying Ireland by 39. I checked that number prior to the Irish squad being named and after, and it doesn't seem to have changed at all. So the fact that the Irish have rotated a few players in and out hasn't had any impact on the fact that they are still nigh on 40-point favourites for this one. So yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. How do you reckon it's going to go? Do you reckon Ireland absolutely put Italy to the sword? Can the Italians defend better than they did? Can they concede fewer than 5 tries? Would that be a mark of improvement, or are they just going to kind of have to hunker down and hope for the best in Dublin? So yeah, anyway, you guys have any thoughts, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.